There's a very real fear that this authoritarian, tyrannical government is monitoring all these people going to protest, peaceful and violent as well. And so you could essentially be kidnapped and taken away by China just for attending a protest. I mean, the withdrawal didn't really satisfy anyone. If she'd announced the withdrawal, back in June after the first million protests, then it might have satisfied most people. But since those protests, a lot of things have happened. We've witnessed, a lot of police brutality. We've witnessed a lot of dirty play from the government and Beijing. Beijing putting out their propaganda, and the Hong Kong government working with the police to hide evidence, to lie to the public, or just not, do anything. So all of that has just contributed to a lot of anger, and of course, out of that came the 5 demands. So now that we have those 5 demands, it's just withdrawing, satisfying just one of those demands is not enough. I mean, everyone wants the rest of them, right? The 4 other demands. So, it's too little, too late with that withdrawal. So the South China Morning Post is the local English language newspaper here in Hong Kong. And I looked at the news, and then suddenly I saw this news flash up that a protester had been shot out in another protest up in the New Territories. He'd been shot in the chest. And of course, that was big news to us. We knew the first moment that anyone gets shot in these protests, that is going to be a massive turning point, because that's going to annoy a lot of people. So as soon as I saw that piece of news, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a turning point. There's going to be a massive escalation after this. And I could see that the news had actually filtered through to the residents of Tin Hau where we were. So the residents had actually started coming out of their apartments in Tin Hau, and they were actually abusing the police. They're saying, how dare you cops? How dare you shoot at people? Are you killers? So they were not happy at all. And some of the residents were actually throwing stuff at the police. So the police decided to leave. They got in their vans. They started to drive off. Even then, the residents were still chasing after them and throwing stuff at the vans, saying, "How dare you? How dare you shoot at people? You guys are tribe gangs." Just all the insults you could think of. So there was a lot of anger. And so that really essentially was my day on National Day. It was sort of a day that started off, almost like a festival in a way, even though it was a protest. And it started escalating very quickly. And then it turned into pure anger when people found out about the story of the guy getting shot, the protester being shot. I mean, I even criticised the protesters for breaking into the Legislative Council. But my views have kind of changed since then. There's been 2 reasons for that. I mean, they've allowed Hong Kong to become the most unequal society in the world. They've allowed housing prices to escalate to such a point that a normal person, a university-educated person working in a good job, can't even afford to live in an apartment now. They've basically bowed down to what Beijing wants and what the rich business elites want here in Hong Kong, rather than listening to normal people. So it's all of these underlying problems which have driven people to become this angry. We've seen police break their own rules and just not, do good policing. We've seen the government work with the police to lie to the people and to, cover up evidence or deny any wrongdoing. We've seen Beijing put up propaganda on the internet here in Hong Kong to try and discredit all the protesters. So, I mean, what I would say to that is, it's impossible. It's impossible for people here to play a fair game if you're fighting a government and a police that doesn't play a fair game. I think what's driving the anger is that a lot of the reason why people wear these masks is because they're afraid of being surveyed, the surveillance from mainland China. And it's, there's a very real fear that this authoritarian, tyrannical government is monitoring all these people going to protest, peaceful and violent as well. And so you could essentially be kidnapped and taken away by China just for attending a protest. And that's why people want these masks to still be available to wear. So I think when you talk about Hong Kong, the situation's a bit different to maybe Germany and UK. You haven't got this like other country which is like ready to like pounce and grab you if they identify you. There's a real fear of that, and that's why people are so angry. It's like you're basically getting rid of the one thing that's going to protect us from this authoritarian government. My hope is that there's just so much pressure from the international community that the government eventually gives in to one of the demands, and the demand I would like to see them, give into the most is the independent commission of inquiry into the police, because that is going to bring calm to the situation. I think that's going to be the one key thing that might bring calm to the situation. Actually, start getting people to regain trust in the police and perhaps even the government, if ever.